I have something actually to fight for.
This guy actually looks like a homeless person.
His companies were sued for $25 million for deceptive marketing.
He was trying really hard to get on the podcast, and he's been trying really hard to get on now. He contacted a few friends of mine.
And obviously, his whole thing is built on a lie. He is a con artist. It is complete fraud.
Joe Rogan just exposed Liver King's alleged supplement hustle, and the internet is watching the self-styled ancestral millionaire bleed credibility by the minute. When Rogan labeled the physique a full-tilt con game and refused to give the man a seat on his podcast, it wasn't just a spicy soundbite, it was the spark that set a $25 million lawsuit and a mountain of buried secrets ablaze. What followed is a cautionary tale of ego, deception, and the brutal price of chasing clout at any cost. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed. Brian Johnson was a little-known dental clinic owner until he rebranded himself as Liver King, preaching 9 ancestral tenets while chomping raw organ meat on camera. TikTok and Instagram loved the spectacle. Within months, he'd gone from backyard strongman to global cult figure, pushing supplement bundles that supposedly turned couch potatoes into Viking warriors. By early 2022, his daily routine of ice baths, bison heart breakfasts, and shirt-ripping flexes had racked up tens of millions of views. The money poured in, but so did whispers from veteran lifters who saw the veins, the balloon-like shoulders, and thought, nope, no way that's clean. Behind the neon lighting and primal yells, emails were reportedly circulating that showed Johnson spending more than $12,000 every month on a pharmaceutical cocktail, growth hormone, testosterone, peptides, the whole alphabet soup. Fitness forums exploded. Still, Liver King denied it, swearing on camera that his shredded frame was powered only by discipline and desiccated liver capsules. That denial kept the supplement pipeline gushing, right up until a certain podcaster swung the spotlight. Rogan's first jab landed mid-2022. On the Joe Rogan Experience, he laughed, called the physique obviously juiced, and moved on. To most influencers, a shrug from Rogan would be a wake-up call to hush the hype. Johnson took the opposite route. Convinced that airtime with the world's biggest podcaster was the golden ticket, he went on a PR rampage, buying front-row UFC seats where Rogan might spot him, DM bombing Rogan's comic friends, even recording a now infamous video daring Rogan, "Choke me out." The line was meant to sound fearless. Instead, it looked unhinged, especially when he repeated it, voice quivering, like a man who'd rehearsed the speech in a mirror too many times. While Johnson begged for Rogan's microphone, plaintiff attorneys were sharpening their knives. In late 2023, a class action suit landed, accusing him of deceptive marketing. Customers said they spent real cash on ancestral stacks because Liver King promised 100% natty results.
Reacted to how he looks homeless, like he doesn't look anything like a guy with a $12 million net worth.
I have something actually to fight for.
This guy actually looks like a homeless person.
I hope you're mad. You should choke me out. You know how to do that. Or you're trained.
This is Radagast the retarded.
Shame on you. I am going to actually make you pay.
What does that mean?
Or anything and everything.
Oh, lottie coming.
Everything.
How is this guy a multi-million? Is this what people think about when they look at me? Liquid net worth is so this guy has $12 million. This is $12 million in action. Joe Rogan would demolish him, by the way? Yeah, Joe Rogan would beat the fuck out of him. Absolutely, Joe Rogan's a professional fighter. Wasn't he a dentist?
The filing demanded $25 million in damages and flagged potential FTC violations. Court watchers murmured that civil penalties might morph into criminal fraud charges if regulators decided to dig deeper. Johnson tried to spin it as persecution by modernity, but even die-hard fans began to flinch. Then came the knockout. Rogan invited Derek, best known as More Plates, More Dates, onto episode number 1906. For 3 hours, they dissected the leaked emails, the hormone receipts, and the health risks Johnson never disclosed. Rogan's verdict: you ran a con game and you got busted. Within 24 hours, the clip lit up mainstream outlets. Supplement distributors quietly yanked Liver King products off shelves. Sales dashboards that once ticked upward like a rocket now flatlined. That's when the meltdown began. Johnson surfaced on live streams looking disheveled, sporting a tangled beard and oversized hoodie, far from the bronze titan of months prior. Reaction channels tore him apart. Rumors surfaced that he'd hired a private nurse to administer fringe electroshock therapy, a claim no outlet could confirm, but one that stuck because, by then, anything seemed possible. Johnson responded with cryptic rants about savage spirit and fighting for family, sentences that leapt from bravado to self-pity in the same breath. Viewers didn't know whether to laugh or call a therapist.
Hired a private sharmuta nurse to come to his house like a sharmuta would, right? To shock the shit out of him. So besides all those drugs he's been putting in his system, he's doing that. So he's all fucked up in the head, and that's why we see his behavior online like this.
Meanwhile, lawyers kept churning. Internal estimates suggested the empire had earned 8-figure revenue during its peak. Now that figure looked like a mirage once refunds, penalties, and legal fees were subtracted. Bankruptcy experts whispered that Chapter 11 paperwork was probably drafted and waiting in a drawer. Reports claimed private lenders wanted collateral Johnson no longer possessed. Friends distanced themselves. Former partners deleted collabs. The ancestral mythos had curdled into a punchline meme. Yet even with reputation in shreds, Johnson couldn't resist one final stunt. He posted another challenge video. Bags under his eyes, voice raw, insisting he'd still face Rogan anytime, any rule set, or settle for a live debate if fists were off the table. The comment section turned savage, wall-to-wall clown emojis, steroid syringes, and users mock asking if the venue would serve grass-fed crow. Rogan never answered. Silence, in this case, hit harder than any rear-naked choke. Today, the fallout continues. Court dockets list mediation dates. Insiders hint at a potential settlement that could erase most of Johnson's personal wealth. If prosecutors decide he knowingly misled consumers while profiting from illegal performance enhancers, prison isn't off the table, though that outcome remains speculative. Either way, the supplement salesman who once flexed on every algorithm now watches his platform erode post by post, subscriber by subscriber. And every time a headline pops up, Liver King sued, Liver King apologizes, Liver King unravels. Rogan's original critique replays in the background like a haunting chorus, a con game exposed. The lesson lingers long after the raw liver footage stops autoplaying. Build a brand on truth, or watch it collapse the moment one credible voice slices through the facade. In Johnson's case, that credible voice belonged to a podcast giant who didn't even bother to invite him on stage.
I hope you're mad. You should choke me out. You know how to do that. You're trained. You got a black belt. Black belt in jiu-jitsu.
One offhand dismissal, amplified by millions, was enough to topple an empire. So the next time an influencer flashes an impossible physique or miracle supplement, remember, it takes only a single spotlight, aimed by someone who refuses to be conned, to turn a self-made king into the internet's latest cautionary tale. Rogan's takedown didn't just wreck one man's brand, it rattled the entire natty claim ecosystem. Fitness influencers who once boasted miracle physiques suddenly filmed mea culpa Q&As, scrambling to distance themselves from anything that looked like ancestral gimmickry. Brands quietly scrubbed 100% natural from product pages, and supplement companies that had lined up to imitate the Liver King formula found themselves fielding frantic refund requests. Even veteran bodybuilders, guys who'd seen every fad under the sun, admitted they'd never watched reputations implode this fast. Meanwhile, regulators sensed blood in the water. Industry insiders whispered that the FTC's Nutrition Claims Task Force was monitoring the case as a blueprint for future crackdowns. If the class action succeeds, it could set precedent forcing supplement labels to list third-party testing or lose shelf space overnight. For every company still hawking miracle capsules, that prospect feels like a time bomb ticking louder by the day, proof that one high-profile meltdown can pull an entire cottage industry into courtroom crosshairs. And where does that leave the audience? The millions who hit like whenever a shredded influencer promises shortcuts? If Liver King's downfall teaches anything, it's this. Hype is cheap, but truth has a receipt. Next time an online warrior flaunts superhero veins or dangles a proprietary blend as the missing link, remember how quickly castles built on deception sink into scandal. Because somewhere out there, a camera's always rolling, a podcast mic is always live, and a voice like Rogan's is waiting to slice through the shtick.